Hey guys, I am here with my 1991 Civic DX, and recently I had my car in here for some maintenance. It broke down on me and I noticed that the timing belt skipped a tooth on the crank pulley, and well, you know, of course I had to tear it down and see what's going on. So I have all my OEM parts, you know, a new timing belt, new water pump and all that, but what this video is going to be about is this hole right down here. The tensioner goes down there, the tensioner for the timing belt, and I noticed whenever I took out the tensioner that the tensioner bolt was extremely difficult coming out, and well, there it is. This is the old tensioner bolt versus a new tensioner bolt. And as you can see, the threads are stripped. So whenever I took this bolt out, it came out, you know, it was very difficult to take out. So whoever did this job before me tightened this bolt way too tight and ruined the threads, not only on the bolt, but the threads are also ruined inside the engine. So I looked up some different options. There are quite a few options out there, but the best one that I could find is called a TimeSert. So this is what I am using. And basically it comes with all these tools here. You get a drill bit. First you drill out the old threads, which I have already done. And I measured the depth of, this is called a blind hole because there is no, you know, the end of the block is at the other end of this bolt. This is not a straight through hole, so it's called a blind hole. So it's very important whenever you have a blind hole to measure the depth of it. The depth of the tensioner bolt hole inside the block, as you can see, this is inside the engine block. It's all the way down here. This is inside the engine block and there's not a hole behind it. So you have to be very precise with your measurements here. I measured 22 millimeters, so I got out my little calipers here, and these ones right here, and I measured 22 millimeters to be the depth of the hole. So that is a measurement you're going to need. So as you can see, I measured 22 millimeters on this drill bit here, and these are small, which is a good thing. And I actually specifically told TimeSert that whenever I was inquiring about this kit, because as you can see, there is not that much distance between the bolt hole and the frame of the car right here. I mean, I would probably say that's about 6 inches or so. Not very much space, as you can see, not much room to work with. I had to take out the motor mount and stuff like that, and obviously while I have all this stuff out, I'm going to be replacing the timing belt and water pump and tensioner and all that stuff that goes along with this job. But for this specific rethreading of the bolt, the first step is to drill out the old threads. And you have to know the pitch and the size of the bolt here. So this one specifically for this 1991 Civic is, let me see here, that says M10 by 1.25. So you have to know that. And then the inserts, the actual inserts that are going to go into the block are 16.2 millimeters long. So this one right here is 16.2. So this is a very exact, precise kit. You have to know exactly what you're working with in order to do this correctly. So they suggest that there is 6 millimeters past the threads. For example, you know, like I said, this is a 22 millimeter deep hole, and then this insert is 16 millimeters. So that leaves 6 millimeters, because the bolt, whenever it goes in threads through the insert, it actually, well, the applicator, which is right here, has to go a few 4 millimeter, at least 4 to 6 millimeters past that in order to lock in the TimeSert. So first, you just to go through this real quick, first you drill it out, and then this creates a edge on the engine block, which will make it to where the edge of this insert, it has a little edge right here, will sit in that edge, in that groove, so it can be nice and tight in there. So after you drill it out, then you need to create new threads. Now this is the tap that comes with the kit, and these threads are not for the actual bolt. These threads are for the outer threads of this insert. You can see it has threads on the outside and then threads on the inside. So the first tap is for the threads on the outside, and then you have a second inserter here which will go through the insert inside here. And this part you actually want to put like 30 weight motor oil on, and then this drives the insert in there, and then once it goes past the end of the insert, that extra 6 millimeters, it will push out that insert a little bit in to lock to the engine block. So that's kind of just a very quick, simple rundown of the process. As I said, I have already drilled this out. So next I am going to use this, I think it's called a counter bore. And then this tool right here is going to create a lip on the engine block. So that's what I have run into. That's a quick rundown. My next step is I need to do that counter bore so I can create that lip. So let me show you the kind of the process of what I'm going to do here next. So I'm just going to bring this over to the engine block. Okay, so by the way, this can be done with a drill, but in my case, there is not enough space to do this with a drill. The end of these are just, well, a square. And what I found to work, they say a 12 millimeter will work, but with this particular kit, I did not find a 12 millimeter to work. This is actually a 9 millimeter 12 point. A 12 point will work on this, not a 6 point. You want to use a 12 point. So you see how small this is? I'm gonna insert it there. See how much distance I have there between here and here? That is enough distance for me to get my ratchet in here. By the way, guys, this comes with this little tool to try to keep it straight, which I find very helpful. With this counter bore, I won't be using this, but I will show you guys this tool here in just a little bit using the other tools. So let's see here. So to do this counter bore, just get the ratchet on there, tighten this as straight as you possibly can. So this is going to take 2 hands because one hand is going to be holding this straight, the other hand is going to be ratcheting this into counter bore. But you're just going to go to the very end of this counter bore here, and it will actually stop, or it should stop, whenever it is all the way sunken in. So I'm going to go ahead and do this step. About halfway there, there's a little lip on there, has about 1 or 2 more millimeters to go. Then this will be counterbored. All right, so now it finally hit the bottom right there. This one only goes in probably about 2, maybe 3 millimeters. I have bored out the little lip there. That is so the insert can sit in there nicely with the lip. So now I'm going to get my vacuum and vacuum up all those little shavings, and we can move on to the next step. Okay guys, it may be a little hard for my camera to focus, but there is a lip on that hole right now. So that is exactly what we want. Let's see, I'll try to get the camera in there, but there should be no threads in there. It's nice and drilled out, has a nice lip on it. So now we can continue on with the next step, which is using this thread right here, the threads for the outside of the inserts. Here is the tap right here, and it says M10 by 1.25 TimeSert, so this is the tool we need. So whenever you're using this tap, they include this tap guide. This is specific towards this kit, the size and everything. So let me kind of show you how this goes. So you have your tap in here. Of course, you want to make sure it's as straight as possible, but this helper right here is you put this against the block or whatever surface you're using, and it helps keep, you know, the drill bit will go in here and this through here, and then this will help it keep it at least somewhat straight for whatever surface you're working on. So this I see as a huge benefit, especially for me, because this is right, you know, this hole is right in between the top of the head and the bottom of the block or the oil pan. So this is right in the middle. So this is in a very awkward spot, not only limited space, but also in a very awkward spot down there. So this tap guide will help greatly with this job. So next, because again, this is a blind hole, exactly like I did this drill bit right here, I need to take my calipers, my measurement tool here, and I need to measure exactly 22 millimeters on this tap. And then you can either mark it with a marker or use tape. So because you do not want to obviously go further than you should, because, well, you'll be eaten into the block and then you'll have to buy yourself a new block. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and measure this and we can continue on. All right, guys, I have my tap marked with my tape. Put it in there as straight as possible. Okay, actually I'm going to put, let's go ahead and put this on. All right, guys, while trying to put this into the engine block, I noticed that this goes over the tap fine, but I just have some tape over this and I have it really, on there good, and this tap guide is so tight on this tap that with this tape, this tape is like, what, not even 1 millimeter thick. So this is not allowing me to have this tape over my tap guide here. So it looks like I'm just going to have to use my green Sharpie marker and mark this all around. Hopefully I don't rub off those marks. So I'll take this tape off and mark it up and see if that works better.
Oh, did you just put tape on that one?
Yep.
For what?
All right, you can see that I have a Sharpie mark all the way around my tap, so hopefully that won't wear off with me holding this thing. But now the tap guide fits on there perfect. This isn't going to move at all. This is very tight around the tap guide, so this should work well. I'll just move this back every so often to check my marks to see how deep I am. Okay, quick tip here. Before you start tapping, you want to put oil on these threads, like a 10W30 or something like that, 30 weight oil on these. All right, guys, as you can see, this is my setup. A 6-point is actually working better on this tap. I have been using a 12-point, but a 6-point works better on this one, which I find odd. But anyway, here is the tap guide. As you can see, it goes right up to the block, and then I'm able to move it back to see my depth. You can see my line right about there. Now, they also recommend after you go about 2 or 3 rotations to back this out and clear off the threads, because naturally there are going to be shavings on the threads. So I've done about 2 or 3 rotations, so I'm going to go ahead and back this out and clean up the threads. Then I'm going to drive it in all the way down to that line. Hopefully this is nice and straight. We can get our TimeSert in no time. Okay, next, this is the insertion tool. Again, I don't know why the tap used a 6-point and then the other tools use a 12-point. Also, this is a 1/4 inch, this is a 3/8. I don't know why there's a difference there, but the 3/8, for some reason, the 12-point was too large for the tap tool. Anyways, this is the insertion tool for the TimeSert insert. So they say to put some oil on this, so I'm just going to use some 30 weight oil on the threads. They say that's very important. And then this tool will, you can see that this is the insert right here. You can see the lip right there, so go in like this. So I'm going to put some oil on it, but just to show you guys, this should thread in just like that into the insert tool. And then this will drive this all the way into the block, and then it's actually going to go past it. And once it gets to about this point, at the very end of it, it is going to actually push out some of these threads like this. And so it's going to become a little bit more difficult, and that is going to help anchor this in. Not only this lip here, but it's going to help anchor this in. So just a little note there. So it may get a little bit difficult, and then it's going to pass it just by, a few to 6 millimeters tops, probably about right there. And then I'll just screw this out, and then this should stay inside the block. So I'm going to go ahead and lube this up with some oil, and then we can see if this actually works. By the way, guys, it wouldn't be a bad idea to use some thread locker on these threads here on the outside. I only have blue thread locker, but red thread locker would be better. But since this is all I have for now, I'm just going to use what I got and just put a little dab on this. So just another tip there. All right, guys, I have my thread locker on this insert. I am going to attempt to thread this in by hand at first. I'm not sure if this is gonna... Okay, look at that. It is going in by hand. Okay, it's getting a little tough, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my insert tool and go from there. Well guys, there it is. The TimeSert is in there. I have actually not tested the bolt. This is, I put in the applicator, but this is the actual new tensioner bolt. Let's give this a try. Oh yeah, goes in nice and easy. Very nice. Okay, great. This is gonna work awesome. All right guys, that concludes this little project. If this helped you in any way, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.